everybody. I am Sapna Mahadevan, your host for this lovely evening, and I am once again back here to tell you all about the different stand-up comedy sets and how you can be writing one by yourself. Yes. So in yesterday's episode, we learned how we can be writing an observational comedy set, and what it means is that observational comedy is really talking about your everyday world and putting a spin on it. Yes. So now, if you have watched any clip of famous comedians like Jerry Seinfeld, then you will hear great observational comedy. Yes. Now, there are always great observations which are spread throughout any comedian's act or a comedy routine or a comedy set. And that's what is called observational humor, when it comes from a spin on everyday life, everyday situations, mundane routine activities. Yes. So let us in today's episode also learn more about observational humor and see different scenarios on how you can be writing a comedy set all by yourself. So I welcome warmly each one to you. I welcome all of you here into PSTV, and of course, wishing like always that you all are a participative audience, and that we have a fun time interacting with each other with all the different fun segments that we have curated specially for our dear viewers of today. So join in into this live session and do stay tuned in with me here as we explore stand out at stand up comedy, explore yourself at a comic level. Yes. So let me give you a glimpse of the coming up segments. So we do have, like always, a talk about what is stand up comedy, and then some fun segments like decipher the idiom, locate the words. There is also a Google it word for today. And then we will also have icebreaker questions coming up every now and then. Apart from that, let me also tell you that we will be talking about the essentials in a comedy set. So before you start writing a comedy routine, or all the jokes that make up your comedy set, what do you need to focus on? What do you need to think about? Right. So there are certain essentials that we will be listing out in today's episode, and we will also have a particular scenario where we will see how we can weave a story out of that scenario and perform jokes for our live audiences. Yes. So let's get moving with our first segment here, which is guess the character. So name these famous movie cartoon characters. I'm going to show you some pictures, and you can let me know the names of these famous cartoon characters. Right. Here is the first picture for the day. Can you guess what is this particular, or who is this particular character? Think about the shape of this character here. Again, a funny character in one of the popular American shows. And who is going to give me the first answer? Who is that early bird entry here? Yes, that is right, Prisha. So it is, of course, SpongeBob SquarePants. Yes, lovely. Let's move ahead to the next one. A really famous and adorable character from the Disney franchisee. And what is the name of this particular cartoon character? We all know this, isn't it? Of course, it is Mickey Mouse. Yes. I am really in awe of all the Disney characters. There it is. We have Mickey Mouse here. And moving ahead to the next one. What is that? Again, another adorable character. Winnie the Pooh. Yes, again, all my audience members giving me correct answers here. So, yes, let me show that to you. That is, of course, Winnie the Pooh. And with that, we come to the end of this segment. And let me now move ahead to the next segment, which is what is. So, what are we going to learn today? It is all about what is stand up comedy, right? So, by now, I think you would have got a hang of what stand up comedy performances are all about. So, let me tell you that whenever a comedian or a comic, he or she, they perform in front of a live audience, with the aim of making the audience laugh, then of course it is the performance in itself, the art form is called stand-up comedy, right? So the jokes are scripted, and they have setups or particular routines that they follow. Maybe it will have one liners and word plays and punch lines, which gives the audience the laugh, right? And let me also tell you, the average stand-up comedy show gets around 4 to 6 laughs a minute from the audience. Yes, so that is what stand-up comedy is all about. And now let's move ahead to explore what the subtopic of the day is. So, just like yesterday, we again have observational comedy, which means that any mundane, everyday kind of a routine situation which you're going to keenly observe and try poking fun at everyday life by maybe observing the silliness of something that the society really accepts as normal. But when you think about it, then you definitely do give a different perspective through your jokes or through your stand-up performance, right? So that's what observational comedy is all about. And today we are going to explore another different scenario. If you remember, yesterday we had the scenario of a big fat Indian wedding. What are the different things that you can imagine happening in that Indian wedding, which is going to be hilarious, right? So today we are going to explore another different scenario. Let me take you through the scenario for the day. Yes, so it is life in a melodramatic family. So just imagine that you have a big family, you stay in a joint family, and there are a lot of members who are all melodramatic in nature, and they are a pro at absurd deeds. Yes, now that itself is a cause of a lot of humor if you come to think of it, right? So portray the absurdities that you notice in your own family in a comic way to the audience. That is the scenario of the day. And before we discuss on this scenario, let's move ahead to the first icebreaker question, which is what is your favorite, or which is your favorite planet in the solar system? Yes, so quickly answers in the chat box, whichever is the favorite um, planet in the solar system. Do name it in the chat box here, and maybe you can also give me reasons for it, right? Great. Lovely. I'm going to wait for some of the answers there. Hello there, Joseph. Thanks for joining the live as always. Creative Corner. Hi there. Harini. I welcome all of you to today's live. And we are going to give you a lot of information on how we can be handling observational comedy, right? And take it from me, it is really difficult to make people laugh. Yes, so you definitely have to have the funny bone in you, but of course you also have to learn certain skills to be maybe if I can list some of them down, then you definitely need to have people skills, you need to have public speaking skills, and you need to know how you can be presenting yourself in front of a live audience, right? And of course you want to practice your jokes and see to it that you use the correct voice modulation technique so that your joke lands well. Yes, so all of these are different talents that you would have to imbibe. Yes, so being funny itself inherently, that's not going to help. You need to have certain other skills along with being funny, which is going to ace your humorous side. Yes, and by the time I gave you all of that information, I have a lot of answers here in the chat box, and I can see Earth is my favorite planet. Of course, it is. It's giving us life here. Yes. So Earth, I'm seeing Jupiter here. There's Saturn because of the ring, and Mars because it can be a planet where we can be living in the future. Thanks for that, Harini. Yes, so lovely. Thanks for all of those answers here. And great. So yes, with all of those answers, let's move ahead to the next segment. And we are through to establishing the essentials, right? So let me give you 4 definite elements in every stand-up comedy. The first one is going to be the opening line. Then we have bits, and then there are elements which are called transitions. Of course, then we have the closer, right? So let's look at each one of them in greater detail. The first one is the opening segment. So let me tell you that an opening segment is the opening joke that you're going to present to your audience as soon as you introduce yourself once you're on the stage, right? What do you do next? Yes. So what is that one line with which you start your joke is going to be the opening joke. And let me tell you that you need to give a lot of emphasis on this first opening of yours, because this is where you're going to have that connect with the audience. And if you're successful with your opening joke, then you can be confident enough throughout the whole set that you're going to perform, because the audience definitely loves you, right? So be careful with your first opening line, and give a lot of effort and consideration into your first opening line, because that is what is going to break or make your career, right? So the opening line is really crucial. And with that opening line, let me also showcase you the scenario. If you recollect, for today was a melodramatic family, right? So a day in a melodramatic family was the scenario. And now for the opening line, how can you start with this scenario? Yes. So we have our 2 cents here, catching up with the scenario for the opening line. So you can maybe crack a joke on how pleasantly your morning begins. So now this is an ironical statement. It's kind of like a satire. So when I tell you what how your morning is going to start, you're going to understand why we have used pleasantly there, right? So you can maybe crack a joke in the opening set where you talk about how pleasantly your morning begins with all of the aunties of the household chattering over your head, and some cousin kid of yours maybe jumping on your lap even though you're sleeping, and your mother snatching your sheets and pillows because she requested the maid to wash them before she leaves, right? So your precious sleep there has been really targeted. And now, with all of these chaos, your morning has started bright and sunny. Yes. So that's how you're going to start your opening segment, right? And the audience there is going to get a cue of how your comedy routine is going to go ahead, right? So the scenario is a melodramatic joint family, and then you can think of all the things, all the chaotic moments that can happen and that can go wrong with a chaotic family. Yes. So that's about the opening line here. And then let's move ahead to understand what's the second essential element, which is the bits, right? So let me tell you, bits are nothing but uh, what comedians call their jokes. Is what is bits, right? So every bit or every joke is going to have a setup which is detailing the characters, the situation, the setting of that scenario. Maybe there can be a punchline which is included, and of course there's going to be a conclusion, which is the most funniest part of the joke. And almost always it goes against what the audience is expecting from you, right? So when you start off with a joke, the audience is definitely going to join the dots and maybe expect a certain way that your joke is going to land. But what you need to do instead is take them by surprise and have a twist come up in your comedy set, right? So the second element after the opening line is going to be the different jokes that you have planned for your comedy routine. And now I'm going to tell you how you can be weaving how you can be weaving the scenario along with that opening the bits that you have here, right? So now maybe you can narrate how your uncle in the family has been so loud with his digestive system. You definitely know what I'm talking about, right? And at first he seemed to have enjoyed the meal a lot, but then his stomach aches made him turn the house upside down in search of and stomach. The loud noises from his stomach, the rumblings from his stomach, they add into the seriousness of the environment. Now, moreover, when you kindly ask him to take the medicines, he, while burping right directly onto your face, says to you that he wants nothing else but some tea with extra milk and the leftover meal in the kitchen, right? So that's going to turn hilarious because his digestive system is on the roll, right? You can hear all the rumblings from inside his stomach. But when you ask him to take his medicines, What he wants from you is some tea with extra milk, which is again going to be difficult in digesting, and maybe a meal that has been left out in the kitchen, right? So that again is going to make the audience laugh out loud because of all the antics that is happening throughout your house, right? And these are jokes that you're going to connect with the opening line. Yes. Now after those jokes, the third element that we can be looking into is the transitions, right? So now the transitions are bridges that connect one joke to the other. Now that you have spoken about your morning routine, and how your morning started, and then how your uncle, he had particular antics going around. Now the next one, when you have to transition between one joke and another, then how are you going to weave the third joke, right? So now let's look at another person from the family maybe, and now we are imagining to talk about your handsome brother who is attending his meeting on Zoom, and suddenly the uncle walks into the room, right? Now, as you can guess, with the uncle entering the room with him, the sounds are also making a loud entry, making the whole situation weirdly hilarious, right? Now, moreover, the kids keep snatching his laptop from the other side to play games, and you can definitely imagine how embarrassing it is going to be for your handsome brother. Yes. Now, that picture there also makes it really clear that poor brother there from the family, he's not able to concentrate on his work, right? Now, that's what is going to happen if you have a melodramatic, a loud joint family, right? And it's going to definitely be hilarious. Yes. So these are jokes on how you can be weaving a story or a telltale kind of a story throughout, right? First we spoke about one member, then now we are speaking about another member from the household, right? And we are trying to connect the dots by bringing in that first person into our second joke as well. Yes. And this bit here where I'm saying that the uncle enters the room, and along with him the sounds to make a loud entry, right? So words like these where you have a certain wordplay happening, that is going to make your audiences sit back and enjoy the witty one liners and the witty wordplays, right? So these were the transitions, and now we move ahead to the last bit of our essential, which is the closer. Yes. So the final joke in the show is called the closer. It might be a callback, that means it can be a reference to an earlier joke, and you can wrap up your set with a solid close that leaves the audience laughing and that leaves the audience in stitches. Yes. Now, what can we write about this family here in our closer? Yes. So let me again give you an example here. Imagine that after having a noisy morning with all the chaos, uncle burping and freaking out right next to you, the kids irritating you all the way while you wished what you wished for was a quiet moment for yourself. Finally, you find one quiet room and you sit there. Suddenly, your mom enters with the maid to clean it. Now, you are again linking it back to the first segment, right? And it has to be done immediately. The cleaning up has to be done immediately because she has uh, uh, to leave soon, but your I'm sorry, because the maid had to leave soon because your mom has requested her to stay back, right? So now you are trying to give a reference back call to the first joke that you started out with, where you had a pleasant morning and your mom was snatching your sheets and pillows because she had requested the maid to clean them up before she leaves, right? So this is how you want to think about an everyday routine or an everyday mundane kind of an activity, and try putting in hilarious moments in there. Try to connect the dots and weave in a telltale kind of a story, so that finally when you close it, um, your audience can find it relatable, and it is at the same time going to be hilarious as well. Yes. So these were the essentials. We gave you an example of how you can be weaving a story through it. Right now, with that, I can see emojis coming up in the chat box there. And yes, it is really funny, isn't it? Great. So let's move ahead to the next segment, which is the synonymous word. And word that we have for today is punchline, right? So punchline would mean a payoff, culmination, or a gist. So you can maybe find out in Google what a punchline means. It refers to a joke that lands well. Hello there, Dilip. And let's move ahead to the next segment, which is quiz time for now, right? So in quiz time, we have the first question, which is, what is the most common non-contagious disease in the world? That is the first question for the day in our quiz time. And good evening to all of you. Thanks a lot for joining the live. And this is the first question for our quiz time. What is the most common non contagious disease in the world? Think about this one. It has to be non contagious. Okay, let me give you the answer. It is tooth decay, right? That is non-contagious and it is one of the most common diseases in the world, right? Now let's move ahead to the second question. We have, how many strings does a violin have? Anyone here who learns the musical instrument might know that correctly. How many strings does a violin have? And 4 is the correct answer. That's right. So let's move ahead to our next segment. We are having some expert tips here. So let me tell you that you also need to learn how you can edit on the fly. That means as you are performing on the stage, you need to learn learn and probably sense whether a joke is doing well or not. And by chance, if it is not working well, then halfway through its delivery you need to understand that and change it around, right? So in these moments your confidence will allow you to edit the line in real time, cutting and altering depending on the mood of your audience. Yes, so that's again another skill that you need to imbibe, where if you feel that the audience is not liking the joke the way you expected it to go, then you need to edit the joke on real time and alter it to suit your audience. Yes, now that was the first expert tip. Then the second expert tip that we have here is that always have new jokes waiting in the wings after you have performed your first, second, and third quality jokes. What you can do is, if you definitely need not do not want to go out of material, so you have to start building up on your catalog to prevent this shortage, right? So one or two jokes you always have up on your sleeves, so that if you're running out of material then you can compensate with those jokes that you have as something that you have built up in your catalog, right? So these were the expert tips here, and these are really going to help you while you're live on the stage. And now let's move ahead to the next segment, which is Decipher, the EDM. And the EDM for today, or the phrase that has a hidden meaning, is he laughs best who laughs last. What does it mean? It means that the person who has the final say or the final move or victory is the only one with the real success. Yes, that's the meaning of that idiom here. Let me also tell you how you can be using that in a sentence. So, for example, you can say, he might have won this time, but he better watch out. He laughs best who laughs last, right? So, you're giving a warning kind of thing to your friends, and you're saying that this time this person may have won, but next time definitely needs to watch out, because he laughs best who laughs last. So the victory is of the person who laughs last. Yes. Now that was the idiom you might want to use while you're conversing with someone, or even in your essays or compositions. So do jot that one down. And let me tell you, idioms are an impressive way to have a conversation with someone. Yes, so that was the first Decipher the idiom for today. Let's move ahead to the next icebreaker question, which is, what is your favorite bedtime story? So do let me know in the chat box which one is your favorite bedtime story. And is it a classic story that you love to read, or maybe love to hear from your parents? Do let me know in the chat box. Okay, Cinderella comes up here. That's lovely. Little Red Riding Hood. Yes, I really love that story there. The Three Little Pigs. Wow, all classic stories I'm getting here in the chat box. And Varun tells me he loves to read comics during bedtime. That is nice. Great. So thanks again for all of those answers. And if you have any questions, any suggestions for me, you can write to me in the chat box here. And I'm definitely going to read out all of the answers. Yes. And now I love magical fantasy. Wow, that's wonderful. Famous five. Okay, great. Uh, all adventurous stories during bedtime, isn't it? Great. Yes, so let's move ahead to the next segment, and we are now moving ahead to frame the fun part, where we talk about how you can be making your comedy set more and more funny, right? So here you need to focus on the characters, the situation, and the setting. So let me give you an example for each one of these elements here. So when we talk about the characters, you need to be choosy about your characters, and maybe you can bring out the humor in your set by including characters who are inherently funny, right? So frame a perspective where you can present them as a laughing element. Your character may be silly, or they may be really clumsy and falling all about the place. For example, in our scenario that we saw for today, that is a joint family, which is really melodramatic. We have characters like a perfect mother, an uncle who has an irritable bowel syndrome, and the kids who, no matter what, they had to play disrupting the peace around the home. Yes, so these were some of the characters that we had in our scenario here, and they all fitted well into the hilarious set that we wanted to portray to our audience. Yes, so similarly, you can think about some everyday characters who are really funny, so that half of your job is really taken care of, right? Now, the second element that we have here is the situation, right? So you can try and be descriptive about the situation or whatever the clash of interest is in your scenario. For example, the brother trying to make his meeting work in all that chaos is really commendable, right? And try your best to be hilarious, scratch out a central conflict that could drive your plot ahead. Yes, so that is about the situation. And then the third element that we have here is the setting, right? So you need to choose the setting of your plot, give careful consideration to the setting, avoid all the dark places. Remember that you're not writing fiction wherein you have to talk about the particular setting of that story. Here you have the freedom to choose your own setting, and you can funnily portray a scene, maybe for example, while waking up in a big house, getting a little confused and terrified of the people around you can be one of the settings that you can be talking about while you're performing your comedy set. Yes, so this is how the three elements, character, situation, or the conflict, and the setting, they play a crucial role in your comedy set, and you need to give careful consideration to all of these elements, right? Now let's move ahead to the next decipher, the idiom for today, which is raining cats and dogs. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean that cats and dogs are pouring from the sky. Yes, that is not what it means. It has a hidden meaning, which means that it is pouring heavily. Yes, so whenever it is raining torrentially, you can use this idiom, raining cats and dogs. Now let me also show you how you can be using it in a sentence. So the example sentence here is, we can't go to the park today because it's raining cats and dogs, right? So that's how you can be using that in a sentence, and your audience there understands that it's pouring heavily and that's why you cannot go to the park, right? Now that idiom there is going to give a hilarious twist whenever you're using it, because quite literally it says, cats and dogs are pouring from the sky, right? So only people who know that idiom are going to make or comprehend it in the correct way. Yes. So that was the second decipher, the idiom that we had for today. And now I'm going to move ahead to another fun segment. It is guess the name of this famous stand up comedian. Okay. So quickly in the chat box, Give me the name of this comedian here. I'm going to give you some time. Any questions, any suggestions that you have for me, you can write to me in the chat box and I will try answering it to the best of my capacity. Okay, waiting for your answers there. Okay, so let me reveal the answer. The famous stand up comedian is Chris Rock. And if I want to give you an understanding here, then you can, if you have watched Madagascar, the film, then Chris Rock was one of the cast in that movie. Yes. So Chris Rock, it is name of the famous stand up comedian. And let's move ahead to the next segment, which is tips and tricks. And the first tip that we have for you here is as often as you can get a hold of stage time, or whenever you get the chance, you should grab it, because you definitely need to try saying out your jokes aloud to an audience, so that you check whether it lands well or not, right? You need to test out your jokes, and you can hit open mic nights frequently. Any public speaking event is going to definitely boost your confidence. So grab hold of any chance, any opportunity that you get for a stand-up comedy performance, right? Or any kind of stage time for that matter. Yes, even if it is not a stand-up comedy performance, it could also be any kind of a public speaking event that you can experience, so that you have that whole experience of going onto the stage and talking in front of a lot of people, right? That's the first expert tip here. R, good evening there. Thanks for joining the live. We are almost done with today's episode. But you can join the live every day at 6 p.m. India time, Monday through Saturday, right? And let me move ahead to the second expert tip, which is you need to always work towards shaping your comedic persona. This will help you focus your joke writing with a point of view, yeah, that's unique. Yes, so you need to work on your skill, and take it from me that a lot of effort goes into practicing your jokes, writing them all by yourself, and then practicing them well, so that it um, makes your public laugh out loud, right? So making people laugh is one of the, I think, daunting task, but you need to really work in spite of fear and shape up your comedic persona, right? So these were expert tips for stand-up comedians who want to take up that act, right? And let's move ahead to the next segment, which is locate the word. And here we have the letter maze. You need to quickly find out all the hidden words from today's episode. Um, and also, the words can be written horizontally, vertically, or even diagonally. So, think about all the words that we had, all the characters that probably we had in today's scenario, and you're going to give me the correct words. Okay, so I get uncle there. Kids are also correct. Maid, yes. So I think one of them is still remains. So let me reveal the answers. We have uncle, Zoom, maid, and kids, right? So Zoom was one of the words that we missed. But overall, good job. Thanks for all of the responses. And let's move ahead to At a Glance, which is a segment where I give you a quick roundup of all that we learned in observational humor today, right? So we saw some of the essentials that we need to give consideration to. So character, setting, situation, and the conflict, all these are really crucial elements. And then the four definite elements that you need to include in your comedy set would be an opening line, then all the jokes that you have thought about in your set, then make a transition that is like a bridge from one joke to another, and also the final element, which is going to be the closer, that is the conclusion, how you're going to conclude your joke, right? So these are the four definite essential points. And for the project work, I would urge all of you to put pen to paper and try writing a draft of your very own observational comedy. Yes. So there are a lot of scenarios from everyday life that you might find funny, and you can probably include those in your comedy script. Yes. But definitely try your hand at writing one, and maybe you can read it out or perform it out to your family and to your near and dear ones and see how it works with them. Yes. So that's the project work that I would urge all of you to be doing. And now we come to the end of the episode for today. And for tomorrow, we have surreal comedy. So I will be getting a scenario for you tomorrow as well, where we talk about surreal comedy and we see how that can be written in a comedy way, right? So tomorrow I will be meeting you again at 6 p.m. India time. I am Sapna Mahadevan signing out for today, but would want all of you to take good care of yourselves, have a fun time, and keep laughing. Bye bye.